Hello, everybody, and welcome back to an episode of Sincerely Soph, which, funnily enough, I only ever did one episode. And which is crazy, because I actually love to yap. So it's really weird that the one time I get to yap, which is on a solo podcast, I decided to only do one episode. But to be honest, I was really during the summer, I was really bad on my YouTube grind. The grind wasn't grinding, and that's probably why I only did one episode. But we are back today in a new location, which is actually what the topic of today is. But before we get into that, I would just love everyone to know I'm really not feeling my hair. That's all I have to say about it. I tried to do this curling technique that I saw on TikTok, and I thought, oh, that's going to be really cool, where basically you curl one layer, then you wave another layer, then you curl it and wave it all the way through. It's meant to look like Julia Roberts' hair, and I'm sure it does, right? I'm sure it does. I think my hair is just too short for it, if I'm going to be completely honest. And I think that's genuinely the problem. So, a bit of a shame, but also I'd already put mousse and hairspray and stuff in my hair, so then I don't want to straighten it because then it'd feel really icky. So it's just gone up in a messy bun, but I'm really not obsessed with it, if I'm going to be completely honest. Anyway, yeah, we are at home. This is my parents' house, and the topic of today is moving back in with your parents once you've moved out, specifically that dynamic, more than if you're 22 and still living with your parents. It's more like having moved out and then moving back in. And I just want to deep dive a bit into it and the emotions and feelings, and if it's coming up to you having to move back in with your parents, kind of what to expect. Now, every person's situation is going to be different. Obviously, people's relationship with their parents are different, people's home situations, their actual house is different, also incredibly different. But these are just things that I've gone through, and I moved out of my house with my housemates, my uni home, in at the end of August. It's now November, so it's been 3 months? September, October, November. Yeah, 3 months. It's basically the end of November, so 3 months. And I feel that's long enough to understand the negatives, but also, and the positives, but also not too long ago that I lived by myself that I don't remember the positives, and I don't glorify and glamorize that life, because that had its challenges as well. So I just want to talk about it. I also did literally film this whole podcast episode last night, and then the microphone wasn't on. The microphone is in fact on now, so that's fine. But the microphone wasn't on the whole goddamn time. I spoke for an hour and a half. I think I went on a few tangents, so I think I'm going to try and shorten it down today. I also started doing the podcast whilst my dinner was cooking. I had a salmon rice bowl with some seaweed. It was really good. But it meant that every 2 minutes I had to get up to go and what am I trying to say? Go and check on my damn salmon in the oven. And I did slightly overcook it, which is a bit annoying because it's salmon and salmon's not cheap. Anyway, let's get into the video. I'm rambling about random stuff at this point, so let's start talking. I've got my phone with a few prompts on it for what I want to talk about, because I really thought about what I wanted to say. This podcast episode kind of stems from the fact that we were having a conversation on my housemate group chat, and one of my housemates was saying that she's conflicted about her living situation at the moment, because it's she kind of hates living with her parents, but she also kind of loves it. And it is that is what it is. And I just want to get more into why. I've really thought about it. I did a lot of thinking, put down a few points. I literally bullet pointed the points. So I'm definitely gonna go out. I'm definitely gonna go off on a tangent for pretty much every single point. But I've tried to organise this podcast episode as best as I can. So the first point I've got written down is the abrupt. Great, that's a great start. God, Jesus Christ. The abrupt shift from independence back to familiar rules or old patterns. Yeah. The lack of independence, everyone knows that's going to happen. As much as your parents can be chill and they can let you go out and they can do things like that, it's still like someone's watching you, you know? Like, and someone who is meant to watch you is watching you do things. Like, yeah, now I don't have to ask my parents to go out and meet so-and-so. I can just tell them I'm meeting so-and-so. But at the same time, like, if I've gone out a bit too much that week, if I've gone out every single day that week, which by the way has not happened, which we'll get on to, but if I've gone out every single day that week, then yeah, I'm gonna feel like my parents are watching me and they're judging, and like they're fine about it, and they probably aren't judging, but it's just a perception I have. So there is that lack of independence, even if your parents do allow the independence, and familiar rules and like stuff like that. I don't feel like my parents have done that too much. Like, yeah, I have to do chores, but that's fine because I used to do chores when I lived out of the house. I actually used to do all the chores. Now I only have to do a third of the chores because there's 3 people living in this house. Great. Like, I don't have to do my own washing. Great. All I have to do is like hoover once a week and put the dishes in the dishwasher. Fantastic. I don't have to wash up my own dishes. Oh, you know what? The beauty of coming back home, a damn dishwasher. Oh my God, it makes me so happy. I actually feel like I'm tearing up just thinking about it. You know what? Doing my dishes this is so off topic, but doing my dishes, I never really minded it if I had like loads of dishes. Like, for example, we used to, like, in my uni house, we used to have one person cleaned every week and they'd clean the whole house. And that meant, you know, there'd be like random mugs left in the living room or like just random plates next to the sink and stuff like that. And that, where you've got like quite a few pieces to wash up, once you're in the groove, you're like, oh, it's fine, like I'm in the groove now, I'm washing up, whatever. But having to wash up a pot and your plate and a fork, like 3 items, that's where it really used to get me. Like, that's the one I was like, I don't want to do it. I'd rather just leave it until I have like 10 things to wash up. Anyway, it's really not that important or relevant to the story that I'm trying to tell here. Anyway, so, yeah, I don't think I have very many familiar rules. I do feel like, you know, I need to, again, it's that pressure of like having to sit with my parents in the evening and watch a film with them, which, by the way, this sofa is a very small sofa, only fits 2 people on it, which has its issues when there's 3 of us trying to watch a film. So, not great, actually. But to be honest, I don't think this is, again, off topic. I don't know what it is. But I actually don't think you could fit a bigger sofa in this space. You probably could, but then you couldn't fit much storage. So maybe it's better this way. I don't know. Anyway, going back to the familiar rules, I don't think we have many. You know, yeah. I haven't had much of an issue with that. I think a lot of people do. The thing I do miss probably the most... Wait, let me grab my coffee. The thing I probably miss the most... Oh no, it's done... You know when you heat up milk? Because that's what I did for this. You know when you heat up milk and then it does that little skin shitty thing at the top? This rank... Wait, let me get rid of it. I've just put my dirty coffee spoon on the side table next to the... sofa, which my parents love. You know, it's a one of a kind side table. They got it in India. They're very happy about it. And if my mum saw me do that, let me also give context, my parents are away, but if my mum saw me do that, she'd actually throw a fit. And that, things like that, that's the pressure I'm talking about. Just little things like that. And you don't, like the fact that you have to put a coaster underneath a cup. Who actually gives a flying flippity flip if there's a coaster underneath my cup? Do you know what I mean? I think there's some context to give with my specific situation. So let me start off with saying that my parents are away once a month, probably around about once a month, and they're usually away for anywhere between a week to 10 days. Sometimes they're away more than once a month. But they go to see my grandparents in Italy, and yeah, so they're away for like a little while every single month, and that is like right now, and that I feel like gives me a bit of freedom because I get to play house, I get to have that independence, I get to invite people over if I want, I get to do all of that for like 10 days of my month, which actually isn't bad. It also means like I can spread out a bit more around the house. I really do keep to myself in my room. I also work from home. Both my parents work from home. So I work from my room, my mum works from the study, my dad works from the kitchen/living room because it's open floor. So I really do like pretty much spend all my time in that room because obviously I get up, I have breakfast, and then I go and work for the day, and then I come back out for dinner, and then I'm usually back in my room to do either some painting or whatever I want to do that evening. Sometimes I sit and watch a film with my parents, but not massively often. Anyway, so that's point number one. Point number two is I now live in West London. I grew up in Milton Keynes. Hate all you want. I love Milton Keynes, if I'm going to be completely honest. I feel like you just have to love the place you grew up. Not love, like I don't love Milton Keynes, but I will defend it. I will always defend Milton Keynes. I think there's a really negative narrative around it. I'm on a bit of a Milton Keynes rant here. I don't know why. But I'll always defend Milton Keynes. The pictures that you see of Milton Keynes on the internet are all like the shopping centre. And obviously they're going to be all grey and ugly because it's parking lots surrounding a shopping centre. Obviously it's all grey. But the second you come out of the shopping centre, it's all green, you're on the dual carriageways, there's trees all next to you, and you know what the best time of year in Milton Keynes is? Oh, autumn. I goddamn love autumn in Milton Keynes. I'm really going off topic here with Milton Keynes, but I love autumn in Milton Keynes. The trees change colours, and you've got like 10 different trees, one after the other, and they're all different levels of different colours, and you're just driving through Milton Keynes and you see this, and yes, there's a lot of roundabouts, but actually, it means that the traffic isn't that bad, okay? The traffic is never, like, awful. I do like Milton Keynes a lot. There's definitely a lot of things that actually I didn't know how to do because I grew up in Milton Keynes because it's such a specific city. Like, for example, I'm really getting off topic. I promise I'm going to wrap this up soon and get back to the original point of the video. But, for example, a zebra crossing. Now, this sounds really stupid. I know it sounds stupid. I didn't know that a pedestrian had way at a zebra crossing because Milton Keynes doesn't have zebra crossings. Because if you know anything about Milton Keynes, if you know nothing about Milton Keynes is a city built on the American like grid system of building a city. It basically joined loads of little villages in the area, join them into a city. And it is a city for anyone who wants to correct me on that. It is a city. Anyway, so where was I going with this? All the roads are national carriageways? What? All the roads are dual carriageways. So you can go like national speed limit on most of them. There's lots of roundabouts, and that's what Milton Keynes get the piss taken out of them for. But actually, I don't remember what I was talking about. Oh yeah. Zebra crossings, right. So because of that, you never have pedestrians walking alongside the road. Like, you know, the path's not attached to the road. There's redways where pedestrians walk, and very often you go under the road. So you've got lots of underpasses at Milton Keynes. which means you'd never have zebra crossings. And I genuinely, up until I was about 19, when I started uni probably, I didn't know that a pedestrian had right of way at a zebra crossing. I do now. I don't know why I'm actually going to stop talking about Milton Keynes. It's got nothing to do with this story. It's got a tiny little bit to do with this story. My point is, I grew up in Milton Keynes. So the house I lived in for 15 years, and I say 15 years because I moved there when I was 6. The house I lived in for 15 years, my parents sold that during my second year of uni, and then moved here. They moved here in July of this year, and I moved in September. So they haven't quite got to know the area. I haven't got to know the area, and I find that very overwhelming. Like, very overwhelming. Probably because I don't know, actually. I find the whole thing overwhelming. The idea of having to sit there and like find new places. Like, I got so comfortable in East London. Okay, let me give extra context to this. I went to uni in London. I lived in Stratford. I feel like I can say that now that I don't live there anymore, but I lived in Stratford, which, again, I love Stratford. Maybe an unpopular opinion, I don't know. I feel like, commuting wise, it was great. It has the Overground, the Lizzie line, the Jubilee line, the DLR. Does it have the DLR? I don't know. I've never taken the DLR, I don't think. Maybe once. The DLR, I think. The Central line. What more could you want? And then on the other side, we had Plaistow, which had the Hammersmith and the District line. So, overall, very useful location to live in as someone who did a lot of moving about London. Actually, we didn't do that much moving about London, but it was a useful location to live in. However, actually, there's not many howevers. It's not the nicest place, don't get me wrong. Like, actually, don't get me wrong, it is not that nice. There are some nice parts, like, oh my god, what's it called? The East Village, is that what it's called? I might be wrong in saying that. The new bit where like all the new builds are, that's nice. The bit we lived in, not so nice. But things like, the crackheads used to have a bedtime. After 6 p.m, you wouldn't see those crackheads, which is great. Yeah, there were a few instances, but you live in a city with 9 million people. Obviously, you're going to have some instances of some weird people. Just saying. And those instances, yeah, they were weird. They were like weird. One time, me and Weeze were sat, I don't know why I'm telling you this. One time, me and Weeze were sat at the bus stop in Stratford. And we're like, God, it smells really bad. It smells like shit. And there was a child next to us, so I thought, it must be that child shat his pants. And Weezy says it out loud. She's like, what is that smell? This man dead ass behind us goes, me. And we're like, what the fuck? And then he turns around, he walks away. He has got, bear in mind, and I feel like this is so important to the story. It was this summer. It was like July. It was hot. It was like 30 degrees in London. And this man is walking away. He's got shorts on and there's shit all down his leg. Yep. But I feel like that's just a normal... I feel like that's just a normal London thing to happen, Like, there's definitely worse areas, okay, is what I'm trying to say. Stratford did its job. It did its job. My point is, East London, love her, know her, and I'm comfortable with her. Like, I know where to go. I know places to go out for drinks. Like, things like that, I know them. And now I feel like with West London, I don't know any of that, and I need to get back into knowing all of that. And that's overwhelming to me. Also, because I feel like I'd be doing it by myself. Like, my parents don't really drink. Well, actually, no, my parents have started drinking a bit more. It's not important. My parents' drinking habits are not important to the story. Anyway, my parents don't really drink. And so I'm not going to be like, finding a cute pub with them, you know, because they're not the type to do that. They're also not massively the type of people to go out for dinner. Also, what my parents don't seem to understand, they haven't acclimatized to the London lifestyle, because they think that they continuously have to go into central London for everything, which isn't true. Like, there's a Boots on the high street down here. You can just go to that Boots. You don't have to go to Boots on Tottenham Court Road. But I don't think they've understood that just yet. But I'll teach him, you know, I'll teach him. Anyway, I don't know how I got onto that. I'm going to move on to the next point because I have no clue what I'm talking about. Right, okay. This is a point I feel very strongly about, and I feel like it is the biggest point to discuss. And it is the weirdness of going from housemates, late night chats, and uni structure to silence or family routines. Now, let me tell you something. I was the person with the room that everyone used to come into, right? And it always used to be like, I'd just be sat watching a show or doing whatever, and then one housemate comes in, we start chatting, then the next housemate comes in because they've heard us chatting, and it kind of just kept going like that. Now, I can understand if you don't like your housemates, this might be a bit of a sore subject, but I loved my housemates. I loved them to pieces. They were great. Ow, I just hit my teeth. They were great. And we used to spend hours, like literal hours like that. Like, they'd just come into my room, we'd sit down, we'd talk. Sometimes we'd also just be sat on our phones. Like, it wouldn't be anything interesting. There was a whole day, and it's probably not just like the only day, it's probably happened many a times, I just can't think of any other times, but there was a whole day I was working from home during like my summer between second year and third year, yeah, and I was just working from home. I was working in my bed, like I wasn't feeling too good, and these two girls come into my room and they sit there all day, like literally all day we're sat. And at some point, we're all just on our phones, or I'm working and they're on their phones. I think Ish took a nap in my bed, like that sort of thing. But it's just nice to have that company. And I feel like I can't do that with my parents because they just don't get it. Do you know what I mean? Like, they just don't get it. You know when you're like telling your parents a story and like it's funny, but then they don't find it funny and they find it incriminating, and you're like, well, you've just ruined the whole thing. And like they tell you off for like what you've done in the story, and it's like, well, you're ruining it. Like you've actually ruined it now. That's definitely something I miss. However, saying that, like when I was on placement, or when we were all on placement, we like I used to come home maybe half an hour or so after Wheezy, and I used to sit on that sofa in the living room with Wheezy. We used to talk for hours, or we used to put a show on. We used to do stuff like that. And like I would come home at like maybe 4:30, 5. I wouldn't get into my room until like 10 p.m. and the whole time I've just sat and spoke to Wheeze or watched a show with her or a film or whatever. And like things like that, I really miss it. I really, really miss that. I do miss it. However, and this is going to be something that, depending on who you are and how you deal with things, will affect you in different ways. I have so much time to myself now that I don't have those conversations, because it will literally be like, oh, I only went into the kitchen to make myself some dinner, and then because Ish was in the living room, I sat down and spoke to Ish, and I've now been sat here for 3 hours, and I actually had plans to do something else this evening. And like, I don't have that anymore. You know, my parents are very much have dinner at the table, 6:30 every single night. We all have dinner together. It's probably an hour long. Then you pack up everything, and then they usually watch some TV or read a book or do something like that. And usually that's when I go to my room and do whatever I want to do. If that's painting, at the moment I'm knitting. I feel like an old lady. Or like I feel like I have time to myself, time to do things I want to do. And that's, I'm never going to blame it on the girls and like them taking up my time, because I love the fact that they took up my time. I miss that they did that. And also, I could have had them in my room and I could have been painting whilst they were in my room. I could have done things that I do now back then as well. But I feel like I have so much more time to myself. I like having time to myself. I like reflecting. I like self-reflection. I think I'm a very introspective person. However, I know a lot of people don't. The second they start thinking, they overthink, and then they get really anxious, and it just leads to a spiral. So just be aware of that. It's definitely something I didn't expect. I knew I wasn't going to socialize as much, so I knew I was going to have more time for myself, but I didn't realize how much more time to myself I would have. Yeah, it's those little like tidbits of socializing. Also, when you live with people, well, I live with people now, but when you live with your friends, the good thing is you can just be like, oh, do you want to go for a drink tonight? Or, oh, do you want to go for a drink tomorrow? Or do you want to do this tomorrow? Do you want to come with me to this? Do you want to, and like those little bits of socializing, which aren't super structured, they're not like you've put loads of planning into them and you've had to really think about it. That all kind of happens, and that was one of the big reasons I wanted to move in with friends. So I did first year living at home and I used to travel in and out of London, and then second year and third year I then moved to London, and that was one of the main reasons. I was like, those socializing, like, it's not time stamped. I don't have to get the last train home. It's not like, oh, tomorrow, like in a week's time, do you want to do this? Like, it is today, tomorrow. It's more spontaneous of socializing, which I miss that a lot. It's also just little things, like, as stupid as it sounds, like, I am such a lazy person, so this is going to sound so stupid, but if I'm like, now if I think, oh, I need to go to the corner shop, which isn't, I don't even have a goddamn corner shop, it's a damn Asda, but if I think, oh, I need to go to Asda, which is literally a 15-minute walk away, it's such an effort to me. But if I went to the girls, like back in the day, again, 15 minutes down the road, maybe less, 10 minutes down the road, and I went to the girls, oh, do you want to go to the corner shop? If one of them came with me, I'd feel like more obliged to go, like, and I kind of have to go because they also want to go with me. And it's just little things like that, or like a walk, like someone coming with me, like, it's just nice to have that little person to like do things with, and I do miss that a lot. Also, I think I miss that more because I'm now living in an area that I've never lived in, an area I don't know anyone in. I haven't been socializing that much. So, I mean, okay, so Gaz lives, like, her family home is, I think she said, like a 15-minute drive from my house right now. And the girl goes to uni in Tooting. So she lives there most of the year, which is really rude, actually. Anyway, but yeah, all my friends from uni, they've moved back home. Weez is actually in Japan, which is really cool. And any friends that I still have from uni that live in London, they all live in East London. Now, it doesn't sound like that deep, but it would take me like an hour to get there. So the spontaneous socializing that like I loved can't be that spontaneous anymore because it will take me an hour to get there. Do you know what I mean? So it has to at least been planned the day before or the morning of, kind of thing, if we're going to do something in the afternoon. Yeah, and then all my friends from like school, they're back in Milton Keynes, so it is a bit of a hard situation. I don't mind it massively. I do, like, this weekend I was really like craving something social to do. I think because my parents aren't here, like, I wanted to do something a bit more social, but oh well. It is what it is, It is what it is. I think I've been having an existential crisis recently. It started off, I went to Sam's friend's birthday, like, drinks. And he's turning 24. Sam is turning 24 in like 3 weeks' time, which is pretty scary in my eyes. Because that then feels like a really, like, not like really adult, but like I feel like I'm a baby adult, and that's like a step up, 24 is like a step up from a baby adult that I am. So I was really having this existential crisis, and I actually like after those drinks, I actually went for dinner with my parents, and I was telling them about the fear I have, because I don't know what I want to do. Like, I actually don't know what I want to do with life. I know what I want to do from like 35, 40 onwards. Like, I know what that looks like, that future. But from now till then, I have no clue. Like, I'm just trying a few different things out, seeing how it works. But I feel like I've just got this clock ticking in the back of my head, and it's like I'm running out of time. And I remember saying this because I felt like it last summer, and I was saying it to someone. I was on a shoot, and I said it to someone, to the manager of the talent for this shoot, and she was like, I hated my 20s. Like, I absolutely hated my 20s, because there is so much pressure put on your 20s to do so much. Like, no other decade of your life are you expected to do so much, between 10 and 20, you're at school for most of it. Like, yeah, you've grown, but you're at school. You haven't progressed that much in life. Between 30 and 40, usually you kind of stick to the same thing. Maybe you've had a career change. But and then you carry on doing it. But between 20 and 30, you're expected to go to uni, finish uni. You're expected to find your first job. You're also expected to, grow in that job and get promotions or change job, whatever. You're expected to be continuously successful in that job. You then are expected to, get engaged and get married and start having a family and get your own house with your partner, and just things like that. Like, the expectation of your 20s is so intense. And she was like, the second I turned 30, I felt like a weight off my shoulder. And that to me, I think about that so often, because it's so, I don't want to say healing. I feel like that's not a word I use in my vocabulary in this way, but I do find a lot of comfort in that, because I do feel like, and I think I just put the pressure on myself more than anyone else. I don't really think anyone puts the pressure on me apart from me, which isn't great. But in my mind, there's no other option but to be successful. And obviously, success in life, that is different for everyone, and you've got different meanings, whatever. But there's no other way I can see myself. And I feel like because of that, I want to put a lot of pressure on myself now to get the ball rolling and do what I do, and be happy and whatever. Yeah, it's a weird one, but also at the same time, so also to give extra context to my situation, I do have a job. I work for my best friend's dad. I do a job. I don't love my job. I love my job because of who I do it for. Like, I love that family to absolute pieces. I love that man to pieces. I love it because of the person I do it for. Do I love the job itself? I don't mind it. I don't love it. I don't mind it. I don't mind doing it every day. It's not like my passion that I wake up every day like, oh my God, I'm so excited to do this. No, not at all. But it lacks that creativity that I've just been literally thrown in for the past 2 years. Like, I have been swimming in the pool of creativity. I have been surrounded by creative people. I have constantly. And now I work for a 58-year-old man who doesn't understand the difference between a post and a reel. So I do miss the creativity, which is why I started painting, which is why I started, I've been knitting, like I said. I also, the other day, I made myself a skirt. And I really enjoyed the process, which is so unlike me. I finished uni, I was like, I'm never going to look at a sewing machine ever again. I never want to touch one, ever. want to look at a sewing machine ever again. And then I just had this idea for this skirt the other day, and I decided to make it, and I did, and I loved the process. Like, I actually loved the process, which is really wild because I wasn't expecting to love it so much. I was kind of dreading it, but also because I was doing something that I would reap the rewards of, and also because I was doing something that I wanted to sew. It wasn't like I got told I had to sew. I wanted to sew, and I think that's what made the difference with my enjoyment level of it. Also, not a single thing went wrong. That day, I was God's favourite because not a single thing went wrong. And it's not like a easy skirt, like a just A-line skirt. It is a quarter circle skirt. It's got frills in it. It's got 2 layers on it. Like, it's not an easy, like, simple skirt. You know, there was room for error and not a single thing went wrong. And God was looking down on me that day and thought, you need to fall back in love with sewing, and I'm going to let you. And he did. So, yeah. I really enjoyed making that. I'm, like I said, knitting a jumper at the moment for myself. I've been painting. I just feel like I've really been in my creativity for myself, which I think is probably the first time I've ever got to do that. I've just realised that the topic of this was living with parents, and I feel like I've really gone off topic here. You know what question I absolutely have been hating at the moment? And actually, I'm such a hypocrite because I keep asking people this question. So, what are you doing now? What's your plan? What are you going to do in the next few years? Like, what's the plan for the next few years? Can you leave me the fuck alone with that question? I don't know. I don't flipping know. I'm literally just going with the flow right now. Like, that is actually where I'm at in life. I'm just going with the flow. I don't know. There's not a plan for a year's time. There's hopes for a year's time, but there's no plan. We're just going with the flow because I genuinely have no clue what I want to do. Anyway, existential crisis over. Moving on. This is really something that I wasn't expecting, but I'm really feeling it, and I'd love to know if other people are feeling it as well, as people have just stopped being students. But the fact that you lose, like, your student title, like the identity of a student, is actually I find it quite tough. Like, I find it quite tough. With the idea of being a student, you can make mistakes, you can be a bit ditzy, you don't have to worry too much because you're just a student. Like, I'm just a student. Now I feel like I'm like a proper adult, and I can't make those mistakes anymore. Like, I can't like figure it out by making mistakes, I feel like, because I'm no longer a student. And when actually, if we're really going to deep it and get psychological and sociological in this, psychological and sociological, that's definitely not a word. Anyway, we're all students of life, no matter what age we are. You could be 80 years old and still be learning every single day. We're all students in life. But I feel like the pressure amps the fuck up the second you lose that student title, you know? Give me a second. I feel like in May I was 22, like I'm 22 in November right now. However, I feel like I'm so much older at 22 than I was in May. What am I trying to say? I feel like I'm so much older in November than I was back in May. Because back in May, my student ID still worked, and now it does not anymore. And also kind of getting out of the routine of uni, like having a space. And I genuinely think this is also probably because I work from home, so I never leave the house. I kind of miss the idea of getting ready, going into uni, which is crazy because I actually used to hate going into uni. So that's a really weird to hear me say that. But, you know, the whole process of getting ready, having to put on a cute outfit. Also, I went to a uni that was for fashion. So I went to fashion school. So you always had to look decent, you know, even on your bummy day, you still had to put a decent fit together. If you're going to go full tracksuit, stick some trainer heels on. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. The outfit had to correlate. The hair had to match the outfit. It was what it was. You couldn't go fully bummy into uni. So even just like doing things like that, putting on a cute outfit, I do miss that from being a student. I got off topic. Yeah, the student identity, it really is a comfort I'm now missing so dearly, like so much. It's ridiculous. And I feel like no one ever talks about that, like the identity linked to being a student. But at the same time, I'm saying I feel like more like an adult now that I'm no longer a student, but I also feel more like a child because I live with my parents. It's such a weird oxymoron. Like, constantly living with your parents is the epitome of an oxymoron. Like, I feel older but younger. I feel older because I'm no longer a student. I feel younger because I'm living back with my parents. I'm happy but I'm annoyed. I'm happy because I don't have to pay for my food shop every single week and my laundry gets done for me, but I'm annoyed because I have to live with my parents. You know, it's just, that's the best way I can describe it, is actually an absolute oxymoron, the life you live with your parents. The one thing I do have to say I appreciate about my parents is that I feel like they're quite understanding of the fact I'm no longer 16, you know? Like, I am actually a full-grown adult. Apologies, Anastasia decided to FaceTime me and I had to pause. I think what I was saying is that I appreciate that my parents don't treat me like a 16-year-old anymore and they let me go out. Like, I don't feel like I have to ask my parents to go out. I can just say I'm going out. Do you know what I mean? It's not important. Also, on FaceTime to Anna, I realised I've got a piece of hair just sticking up and I look a bit like Alpha from the Little Rascals. So I hope that hasn't been annoying you all video long. Anyway, I do think it is, I feel like I oftentimes when I tell people I live with my parents, I feel like I have to prove the fact that I used to not live with my parents. Like, I don't know, I think because I feel like I've lost that independence, I very often say like, oh yeah, I've just moved in with my parents like after uni. And it's so silly to say, like, no one cares. If someone told me at 22 that they live with their parents, I wouldn't bat an eyelash at it. Like, I wouldn't find it weird. I wouldn't deep it that much. But I keep feeling like I need to prove the fact that actually I spent 2 years out of the house and I lived by myself and I was a fully grown adult and I was doing my own food shop and my own laundry and my own chores and like all these little things. Like, I feel like I need to prove that, and no one asked. Like, literally no one has asked me to prove that. I think it's, that makes me feel like I've still got that independence in me. I don't know. I used to love saying, oh, I'm gonna go back to my mum and dad's. I never used to say I very often didn't say I was going back home. Also, so my parents sold the house I grew up in like May of second year, and then they moved into it like a rented place because this place here is a new build, so they were still building it, so they had to wait for this place to be built basically. So my point is, to me, that flat that they lived in for that year, that was my mum and dad's place. That wasn't my place. Like, that's not my home. Like, so I always used to say, oh, I'm going back to my mum and dad's. I'm going back to my mum and dad's. It made me feel like such an adult. And now I'm like, oh, I'm going back home, and that means my mum and dad's place, and it kind of pisses me off. But I do also appreciate the fact that I get to make memories in this house. I don't know why I keep saying house. It's a flat. You know what? Growing up, everyone lived in a house. Like, every single person ever lived in a house. I don't think I ever went to someone's house and they lived in a flat. growing up. Instead, now in Milton Keynes, because it's growing so quickly, it's just flats upon flats upon flats. And I used to be really embarrassed about the fact I lived in a flat. I thought, I don't know, I used to be really embarrassed about the fact we lived in a flat. And now I don't feel embarrassed about it at all. Anyway, but because of that, I got in such a habit, because everyone was like, oh, my house, my house, my house. I just say my house when actually I mean my flat. But also people don't really say my flat or my apartment. Well, I guess they say my apartment. But anyway, really off topic. I'm happy I get to make memories in this house. I like the fact that, you know, I get to know it and stuff like that. My piece of advice to do if you're moving back in with your parents, actually come up with the worst case scenario, because that's what I did. I came up with the worst case scenario because I thought, you know, my parents downsized to this place right now because they were like, you know, both our daughters are out of the house. I mean, they knew I was coming back, but they were like, you know, she's not going to be back for very long. In the long run, they're going to be out of the house. We just want a space for ourselves, kind of thing. So it is quite a small space. My room is tinsy wincy, which does actually mean that I have to put away everything I take out, because the second one thing's out, it just looks like such a mess, which I'm an extremely messy person. I've always had a messy room. So it's quite odd to me that is the case at hand. Anyway, going back to why I was planning worst case scenario, the spaces are really small. My mum and dad, like I said, both work from home. I work from home. So we're all at home basically 24/7. My parents also don't have that vivid of a lifestyle. Vivid? Colourful? I don't know. They don't have like a super social lifestyle where they're out very often. So it is very much like we are just all at home all the time. And I knew my parents would be away. I don't think I realised how much they would be away, which is the positive. And also, I didn't expect my parents to be so accepting of the fact I'm no longer 16. So in my head, I went, tiny house, parents are always there, they're going to be annoying, we're going to be living on top of each other, it's going to be god awful. Like, god awful. And I think because of that, it was actually alright. Also, I have to say, I am the younger sibling. My sister's 5 years older than me. And when she came back from uni, it was, oh, God, it was horrible. It was absolutely awful when she came back from uni. So I think because I saw that happen, I really I was prepared for the worst. And actually, it hasn't turned out to be that bad. Her situation was really bad for many reasons that I'm not going to get into. But there were particular reasons. It's not like I've just got it off lightly because I'm the youngest child. That is not how it is happening here. Anyway, so yeah, I think that is definitely something to think about. Prepare for the worst, and then anything that can happen is better. And I think that is really what I did. I also think, like, now that I look back at it, I did put a lot of negativity on my parents. Like, they're going to be awful, rah, rah, rah. And actually, they've been all right. I have to say, they've been great. At times, they've pissed me off, don't get me wrong. It's just, you know what? Going back to the little pressures of little things that, like, just get on your nerves and then they, like, wind up into, like, one big thing. It's little things like my dad works in the kitchen, right? Great. But if I want to eat at, let's say, 11:45, I want to have my lunch because I'm hungry at 11:45. I'm not hungry at 12:30. I'll go in the kitchen and I start making myself lunch and my dad's like, it's 11:45. God damn it, Sherlock, you can read a fucking clock. So can fucking I, okay? Although I would never say that to my dad. That's a bit too scary to say to my dad. But my point is, I can read the damn clock as well, okay? We can both read. Funnily enough, we can both read. And anyway, so it's just little things like that just, like, for example, my parents, every single morning, we have breakfast together, right? That means being up at 7 to have breakfast together. I don't want to be up at goddamn 7 o'clock in the morning. Let me sleep until 8. I start work at 9. That means I get 8 till half 8, I can have my breakfast, half an hour of getting ready for the day, and then I sit down at my desk at 9 o'clock. I don't know why I need to be up at 7, but I get shouted at. I'm like, Sophie! At 7 a.m. Leave me alone. Do you know what I mean? Just little things like that. They really add up. Anyway, after just going on to all the negatives I've just spoken about, let me talk about some positives. Like I said, you know, I think, and this was really dependent on your parents, but kind of understand that they also know that you're no longer a child, and you know, if they're still treating you like a child, maybe have a talk with them. I don't know, they're your parents, you decide. But I do think that this time is a time to kind of pause and reflect on what you want to do, and I have no clue what I want to do, but it is a moment where I feel like I can pause in my life, and that's what this feels like this year. I'm hoping it's only a year. This year of living with my parents feels like a pause button on the screen. Like before, you know, you have to pay rent, so, and don't get me wrong, some people do pay rent, but it is usually a limited price. Like it's not as much as you would pay for rent in London or wherever you live, but it wouldn't be like a full rent that you would pay for a place. It's usually like a smaller rent that you pay to your parents. But you know, you don't have to pay, like I used to pay near to £1,000 every single month on rent when I was at uni, and like I had to work to like have the money to pay that, and obviously I was working just like a bar job because I had to pay my rent, which then meant I didn't have time to do any, like a lot of the jobs I would have wanted to do, and so on and so forth. So it kind of feels like a pause button on that, because financially you don't need the money so much, you know. So yeah, and also because, you know, my week isn't taken up from uni. Like now obviously I work, but if I wasn't, my week's not taken up from uni, so I could do like a part-time hospitality job and then do part-time whatever I want to do. You just have a bit more time, I feel like, in living with your parents, which is actually the biggest positive of living with your parents, and that's why a lot of people do it, is obviously the financial aspect. But it does it puts me in a bit of a comfortable state, and the one thing I really didn't want to be was comfortable when living with my parents. It wasn't something I was too happy to be in, if I'm going to be completely honest. I don't want to be comfortable in this house. I do want to be constantly thinking, I want to move out, I want to move out, I want to move out. Because it is so easy to get comfortable living with your parents, because someone's doing this and doing that and doing this, and then you're paying little to no rent. Yeah, and I don't want to be stuck at home. So that's why I keep saying to myself, this is only for a year, this is only for a year, this is only for a year. I don't know what I'm going to be doing in a year's time. I don't know what, come August, because I moved here in August, move out in August. By the end of August, start of September, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I don't know where I will want to live. I would love to live in Manchester, just to, like, I've done 2 years in London. I'd like to do maybe a year in Manchester, see how that is, you know. I've got no responsibilities. Also, my job is work from home. I can do it from anywhere, which means if I wanted to do it in Manchester, I could. Like, I've got no responsibilities that are tying me down to a place. So I feel like I can kind of do it wherever I want to do it. You know? I think this thing I need to keep reminding myself is that I am only 22, and in the grand scheme of life, when I say the grand scheme of life, I don't know where I'm going to die, so I actually don't know if it is the grand scheme of life, but let's say I die at the expected age, which is, I think, 82 for women, maybe 84, I don't know. Anyway, at the expected, in the grand scheme of things, I am only 22. That actually means nothing. It is less than a quarter of my life in, and I really don't need to worry about it, you know. It is, and I really do go through phases where I'm like, oh my god, like everything I do is gonna fail, I'm gonna be like such a failure in life, nothing's gonna go right, and what if this doesn't go right, and this and this, and then like I would literally turn around 5 minutes later and be like, like on cloud nine bliss naivety. That's not a word, I don't think. Positivity. I'll be like, no, like everything's just gonna work out because the energies will align and the chakras and the universe and the manifestation. Like, there is no in between. It's just one or the other. And they happen usually in the span of like anywhere between like a minute to 5 minutes. And I need to find that happy balance in between, because I think that's what's really gonna push me forward, you know? But like, yeah, I'm allowed to not know what I'm not a mind reader. I can't read the flipping future, you know? I don't know what's gonna happen in the future. I don't know. So we'll find out. But I don't need to know everything right now. I don't need to have the perfect plan. Also, if I plan it perfectly, it might not happen. A year ago, my idea of what today would have been like is different to what today is. Do you know what I mean? Just a little bit of advice. I also think this is the time to make mistakes, as much as I said, you know, being a student, like losing that student identity, you feel like you can't make mistakes anymore. But this time that I'm living with my parents, I can make mistakes, and it doesn't matter. Like, you know, for example, I've been painting. I'd love if I could make that a career. I'd love to be able to sell my paintings. But if I keep doing it and actually I can't sell any paintings and I just keep doing it as a hobby, it doesn't matter, because I don't, you know, I'm not paying $1,000 in rent. Like, I don't need to make them like a minimum of $1,000 every single month to pay my rent. So yeah, I think that's quite a thing that I really need to keep in my mind. I do think something I need to do more often is get into a routine of like going on like a midday walk or something like that. I've been trying to do it, just to get a bit of time to myself and like away from everyone, and like not be with my parents and be out of the house. Also, because again, I work from home, I don't really leave to socialize, which means I can go like a whole week without leaving my house. But yeah, like a half an hour walk somewhere or go to the gym, and I do try to do it, but mostly now that the days are getting shorter, I often, like, I'm in a workflow, I forget, and then it's gone dark, and then I don't really want to go on a walk in the dark, which I actually could go on a walk in the dark. It's all very lit. It is London. The light pollution means it never gets dark, so I could go on a walk. I'm just making excuses now. Anyway, but I think it's important to find something to do, if that's a hobby like I've been painting, if that's a part-time job, if you haven't got a job yet, and even if it's not in the industry that you want to do, or it's the perfect job that you want to do, it's at least something to get you out the house, you know, having a walk, going on a walk or something like that, or going on a run, going to the gym, that sort of thing. It all kind of gives you a little breather from your parents, you know, a breather from the house. You get to go out, you get to do whatever you want. I think that is important, and I definitely need to do that a bit more. Anyway, I think that is actually all I have to say on said topic. Yeah. It's tough. Look, like, if you're about to move back in with your parents, like I said at the start, there's no one situation that works with everyone. My situation is going to be different from yours. It's going to be different from someone else's. Like, even if I just look at me and my housemates, we've all got different situations, and dealing with it differently. So I think, yeah, it's going to be different for everyone. Just know that sometimes it can be quite tough. I think more than living with your parents, it's like losing that independence, and also losing, I've really struggled with the idea of losing the student title that I didn't actually really think about until I was talking to my parents about it. And I was like, I feel like I can't make those mistakes anymore. And they were like, because you're no longer a student, so in the eyes of everyone, you are now like a full-fledged adult. So yeah, just something to think about. I'd love to hear people's point of views if they have just moved in with their parents and how they're dealing with it. I'd also, any fears that you may have about moving in. I do think the best way of going about it is really making it like in your head the worst thing that could ever happen, and then going from there. I think that's definitely what helped me throughout it all. But I also understand I am lucky, my parents go away, I get to play house. I've been in this house by myself for the past week. I'm gonna be for another few days. It's a positive, it's a blessing, I know that. But also when I spend those 20 days with my parents, it can get quite tough. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Sincerely Sophie. I've actually enjoyed doing it. I actually always enjoy doing it. However, I really do get to a point where I'm like, I couldn't tell you anything I spoke about in the last however long I've been talking. I think I've been talking for over an hour. For the past hour, I have no clue what I've just said. So I hope you enjoyed it. And also, whenever I do a podcast episode, I think I have no clue what I've just said and what if it was all shit. And then I edit it and I'm like, I'm actually kind of a genius. Not to toot my own horn or anything, like, whatever. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I will see you soon on a next episode, which I promise I'll keep up a bit better on these episodes. Also, do you like this poster? I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it is a poster of the Twin Towers. No, I know you can see it on the camera that it's a poster of the Twin Towers. What I think you can't see on the camera is the fact that it's a collage made out of loads of different pictures of New York. And I think that's really, really cool. I just have to say, I think it's really cool. So, anyway, yeah. That's all I have to say. See you next week. Well, actually, I won't see you next week in a podcast episode, but I'll probably see you in a vlog next week. And I'll see you next time in a podcast episode. Thank you for watching. Sincerely, Sophie.